Hello and welcome to the Farming Today podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, the row over a feed additive designed to reduce cattle's methane emissions.
It doesn't matter how much reassurance the regulators can give or the companies behind the product, this audience on X just don't like the look of it.
The tenant farmers who may face eviction to make way for a large solar farm.
One of them described it as a bombshell that came from nowhere. You know, they've been farming here for years and years and years through the generations, and suddenly they're seeing their livelihood go.
And the farming apprentice realising his dream.
So ever since a little kid, I've sat in my bedroom window or sat on the gate watching the tractors and the cattle and the sheep, and I've always thought that's what I want to do. I want to be out here in the fresh air, in the countryside.
More on that later, but let's start with that row. Agriculture accounts for around 12% of greenhouse gas emissions in the UK, according to DEFRA, and there is much work across the industry to cut that figure. Arla, the farmer-run dairy cooperative, plans to reduce its emissions by 30% per kilo of milk by 2030. They've just started trials using a dietary supplement called Bovaer, which is added to cows' feed to reduce methane emissions. The trial involves around 30 farmers and 3 supermarkets who buy the milk. A husband and wife farming team helped to launch the trial for Arla with an online advert.
The reason we're so excited about Bovaer is it's not just some fairy dust that somebody thinks might make some improvements, but it's been really rigorously and extensively tested.
Trials like these are really important to help reduce our carbon footprint.
We're really pleased that customers are joining us in investing in sustainability on farm.
But despite the feed supplement getting the thumbs up from UK and European food safety bodies, there's been a social media storm of protest. Some people calling for the boycott of Arla products because they think it shouldn't be used, including posting videos of themselves on social media pouring milk away.
See what that is? Yeah. Arla, you're going down the drain, mate. Won't be buying you again.
Well, some other milk suppliers have been guaranteeing that they don't use this supplement. So what's the fuss all about? Here's food scientist Dr. Stuart Farrimond speaking earlier this week on BBC Radio 4's Inside Science.
This has been used for many years and it's being used in 55 different countries. And I completely understand why people are concerned about something being added and something that is synthetic, and there's this natural reaction that we all have. But unfortunately, this is a classic conspiracy theory of people getting half the facts and then sort of making a narrative around it.
Dr. Farrimond went on to outline the testing Bovaer has undergone.
It's been through lots of very, very lengthy testing that's done on cells, that's done on animals. And because it's been used, we also know that it's broken down completely in the digestive tract of the cows, and none of it gets into the milk at all. So it's really nothing that we should be concerned about. There was an EU report done and they collected all the studies, and yes, they came to the conclusion that there is none in the milk and it poses no threat to either the cow or to us. It starts off on the theoretical, so you get this chemical and you test it on cells in a lab, and so you get a theoretical idea of, does this chemical have a potential to cause cancer? You can also test it on animals, typically mice. They're a good proxy for animals in general and for us. And then you find out what the maximum dose is that they can tolerate before harm comes. That then gives you a ballpark figure for scaling it up. For larger animals, so us, what the maximum dose in us would be. And is that realistic that we could ever get that level in our bodies for it to ever be a risk? And you can also do tests on healthy human subjects. So these are all a raft of different things that are done in the testing process. And the conclusion from all of those is that there is no harm.
Dr. Stuart Farrimond. Well, on Farming Today, dairy analyst Chris Walkland spoke to Kaz Graham.
Well, Bovaer is a well-researched feed additive. It's far from new. From what I gather, it's been developed over the last couple of decades and has been extensively trialled around the world. So it is a feed additive that's been through all of the regulatory processes in many countries, and a tiny amount is added to the feed of cows. To put that in context, if a farmer feeds a cow, he would probably feed 1 heaped wheelbarrow or 2 heaped wheelbarrows to the cow a day, and Bovaer would be about 1/4 teaspoonful of Bovaer. And it's fed because it reduces the amount of methane a cow produces quite significantly, up to 30%. So it is used as part of the race to get to net zero.
And why has there been such an outcry about this feed additive?
Well, I'm not sure really, other than that it might be a reflection of the echo chamber that is X. I mean, to give you a comparison, M&S issued a very similar press release back in April. The Daily Mail ran that story on its website. There were 26 comments. In contrast, this story has gathered 13,000 comments. It's quite remarkable. And I think it's consumers not wanting people to mess with their food. And it doesn't matter how much reassurance the regulators can give or the companies behind the product, this audience on X just don't like the look of it.
It's been classified as safe by the Food Standards Agency and by the European Food Safety Authority. Yet some other dairy companies have actually spoken out saying that they don't use this additive. Why are they doing that when it has been classified as safe? Are they just sort of trying to pick up more customers?
Well, I think that they are reassuring their customers that they are not involved in this product. This product is being trialled by some companies. It's by no means widespread at the moment, largely because it's an expensive product to use with no performance benefit for the farmer. The only benefit is to reduce emissions. So companies are looking at it, they see its potential, others are looking on, and now we've had this firestorm, this furore, they are naturally backing away and saying, well, if our customers don't want it, we're not going to use it.
How damaging could this be to the industry's efforts to reduce emissions if when they try something new like this, there's a risk of bad publicity and a potential loss of customers?
We now have to determine whether this is just the views of, let's call some of them the hotheads on X. I'm not saying all 13,000 are. If that is going to be the viewpoint of consumers, then I think retailers will have to think very hard how they incorporate this product into their supply chains.
Arla have said that they reckon it got huge potential in helping them tackle their emissions. It must be pretty bruising for them if then, despite the fact that it's been declared as safe by all the relevant bodies, the public says, we're not really bothered about having it, we don't want it.
I think bruising is a good word. The events of the last week have been a real eye-opener in the debate between food and emissions.
Dairy analyst Chris Walkland. Well, since the internet pylon, Arla has released this statement.
Last week, we announced that we would be running a trial of a cow feed supplement called Bovaer, a product that has been researched for over 15 years and is already used in many countries around the world. Bovaer has the potential to reduce methane emissions from cows and is part of our efforts to reduce the carbon footprint of our products.
Arla's statement continues.
Unfortunately, since we made this announcement, a significant amount of misinformation has been circulating online, and we feel compelled to address this by clearly and openly stating the facts.
And those facts are the same as DSM Firmenich, the firm which makes it, told Farming Today. And that is, it's authorised and available for sale in 68 countries, including the United Kingdom. In all markets, the regulatory application was reviewed by an independent authority which assesses safety and efficacy. And in all cases, they concluded the product is safe for use, both for animals as well as consumers, and is effective in reducing methane emissions. You're listening to Farming Today this week with me, Charlotte Smith. Still to come, we'll hear from a winner at the BBC Food and Farming Awards. I was judging the Farming for the Future category, and yes, that is a big clue. Now, a number of tenant farmers in East Yorkshire say they could be facing eviction to make way for a large solar farm. The BBC has been told that at least 8 farms that leased land from the Dalton estate north of Beverley have been notified of the proposals. Farmers say the solar project could cover at least 4 square miles and would be a bombshell to families who've farmed in the area for generations. Here's BBC Look North's environment correspondent Paul Murphy.
Applications for big solar farms just keep on coming. Many of them are larger than 1,000 acres. It's all part of a plan to produce more homegrown, cheaper renewable energy. But tenant farmers on the Dalton estate in East Yorkshire say a solar plan for their area will mean they'll lose farms that have been worked for decades.
They're very upset.
East Riding councillor Jeremy Wilcock is speaking on behalf of 8 tenant families.
One of them described it as a bombshell that came from nowhere. You know, they've been farming here for years and years and years through the generations, and suddenly they're seeing their livelihood go. It's a hard life, you know, it's 7 days a week, but they love the land, they work hard on it. They're also very concerned about the environment because they put in bird boxes, they put in wildflowers and stuff like that, and all that would go. I said, can you imagine coming around the corner and seeing, instead of all this agricultural land, a sea of glass?
The farming industry is under pressure. The loss of EU subsidies and changes to inheritance tax rules are seen by many as existential threats. Landowners are looking for other sources of income.
Yeah, it's a really anxious time.
George Dunn is the chief executive of the Tenant Farmers Association.
We have certainly seen a significant uptick in the number of calls that we are getting from our members where their landlords or the agents representing their landlords have been looking at the options for solar development. And in some respects, the decisions that have been announced as part of the budget on the 30th of October is leading some estates to consider whether there are more lucrative uses for their land.
A spokesperson for the Dalton estate said, "We've recently been approached by a renewable energy company, but this is an exploration exercise that is at a very early stage. There's no firm proposal for the area that the developer might be interested in, and no formal agreement has been entered into. While we understand it's unsettling for everyone, it's important that any requirement for land is clarified as soon as possible." None of the estate's tenant farmers wished to speak to us publicly about their landlord's proposal, but one told the BBC that it would be a disaster for his children, to whom he'd hoped to hand on his tenancy.
That report from Paul Murphy. On our sister programme Farming Today, our topic all week has been labour, or the lack of it. Go back 50 or 60 years and many farms would have had a team of full-time farm workers. Now many farmers work mainly alone, bringing in contractors as needed. Dairy farmers say it's hard to find workers, and growers use seasonal migrant workers to pick fruit and veg. More on all that on BBC Sounds. Just search for Farming Today. But the lack of people joining the fishing industry means some older skippers say they're now giving up early because they can't find a crew. No foreign workers are allowed on boats within 12 miles of the shore, so they can't plug the gap, and fishermen say it's harder to employ school leavers under 18 because of extra safety requirements. Well, one fisherman from Bridlington in Yorkshire, who was on the brink of selling his boat due to crew shortages, decided to fight back and use social media to promote the career. Sarah Falkingham went to meet him.
I've come to Bridlington Harbour, which is steeped in the tradition and history of fishing, and there are about 40 boats here. They're all connected with the shellfish industry. This is actually the lobster capital of Europe. They land over 300 tonnes of the crustaceans annually, and I'm off to see Carl and Jenny Price, who are down on their boat here, Isabella. How do I get down then, Carl?
Yeah, you have to just come down the ladders, a bit of a step at the bottom. So this is a 12-metre catamaran. It's purpose-built for static gear work. Fishing for crabs and lobsters seasonally. Got the first boat when I was about 23.
And you're out how many times a year?
We average around 180 days a year.
And how many crew have you got here?
We usually work this as a 4-man crew, 4 to a 5-man crew.
This place is steeped in history and tradition, but it will struggle if it doesn't get any more crew.
Yeah.
And you feel very strongly about that and started a social media campaign and a website with films, Get a Life at Sea, to show the realities of working. How difficult is it to get crew? How many of you had coming to test out if they like it?
Yeah, quite a few. The trouble is with this job, you don't know if you like it or not until you get in it, get yourself immersed in it. And some people can't get over the seasickness. I've took some people to see it, they've never even been seasick, it never even bothers them. But it's hard work, and it's hard physical work.
And your wife here, Jenny, you've gone into schools, both of you as well, to talk to pupils, students, show them what the life is like. What do you do? How do you try and pique their interest?
I always take a tank in with a live lobster and a crab and some other little sea creatures in it, and that generally gets all the kids to my table, and that's when I can start talking to them about fishing, about the industry that's in their hometown and how we need to recruit new people.
And have you had any success? Anybody come forward?
Yeah, we've had quite a few people message us saying, oh, this looks really interesting, what do I do? So I can point them in the direction of how to do their courses, what they need to do, and then they've gone on to do their courses and gone off to work at sea.
So, Carl, it's a very seasonal job. You'll be quiet in the winter now, mending. You'll get busier, and flat out in the summer with lobsters, which is where you make most of the money, and that's the gold rush, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
What could somebody earn, doing this job?
You're averaging anywhere the bottom end of the scale from 20, 25, 35 grand a year, and you can go right up to the top end of the scale with some of the bigger earners. They're doing 45, maybe plus than that a year.
That's not bad manual work, so it's not underpaid.
No.
What are the barriers, though, to getting people out here?
Red tape.
Yeah, before you're even allowed to even step on a boat, you have to go do a sea survival, and it's not free, it's about £180, and we'd like to maybe see that you could maybe take somebody without that, as long as under certain circumstances, just for, even if it's just half a day, to see if they like it before they go and do it, because they don't want to spend £180 doing a course for a job they might even hate. They then have to go and do some more courses if they stay in, which again, they're sort of £150, £200 a course. It's a lot of money before you even start earning any money. And then there's also the red tape and the health and safety around having young people on boats, which, as you can imagine, there's quite a lot of things that can be dangerous. There's a lot of safety's come a long way in fishing in the last 20 years, but there is still a lot of red tape regarding safety and taking people to sea, which can be a huge barrier.
Jenny Price in Bridlington. Well, during our week talking about labour, farmer Bill Kwan got in touch with us. He wanted to tell us about the teenage apprentice who works on his family farm in Herefordshire. What began as a bit of work experience in lockdown has become a career. Rebecca Rooney went along to meet Alex Medhurst, who's only 19, but has now been working at Houghton Farm for 4 years.
Wow. He's a beauty.
Yes, he's very calm too. I do like this bull. I can stand here, scratch him behind the ears. He's eating away quite happily. These are my personal favourites, the Herefords. They're a bit calmer. We breed our cattle to be very easy calving, so you rarely have to assist with a calf. They will normally get on with it themselves and saves a few sleepless nights. I started here when I was 14 as a bit of work experience, and I'm still here, getting on for 4 years now.
And so when your apprenticeship is done and dusted, what will be the qualification you'll have?
My qualification is a level 2 general farm worker, and out of it I also got my first aid certificate, my PA1 spray certificate, which is for handling chemicals, and my level 1 and level 2 functional skills, English and maths.
Bill Kwan.
What difference does it make having a teenager on the workforce?
I'm at the grumpy old man stage, so having a young, energetic, enthusiastic, bright young chap about is great. But we have a balance of people from young to old, and it's good to have the demographics right. And he's come, and it's great to see that he started as a person from a non-farming background with little education. Now he's got certificates, he's passed his English and his maths, and he's more than capable of doing most jobs on the farm now, and works unassisted and unsupervised a lot of the time. And I'm able to go off and do other things and leave him in charge. And he's very good with technology, which is, probably an area that I'm weak at, and he's excellent at maintenance, is what he really likes doing.
And why did you email Farming Today?
Well, because I think it's important that people like him that could come from a non-farming background and really enjoy working in our industry. Not just here, but elsewhere.
And are you enjoying it, Alex?
I am. I very much am. So ever since a little kid, I've sat in my bedroom window or sat on the gate watching the tractors and the cattle and the sheep, and I've always thought that's what I want to do. I want to be out here in the fresh air, in the countryside, working with livestock, working in the fields and the tractors, giving a true sense of purpose in life and something that I enjoy. And that's why I was very grateful when Bill offered me a bit of work experience, because I didn't know how to get into the industry, and that was the perfect way in. That was exactly what I was looking for.
And some people think, oh gosh, it's long hours. You're out here in all weathers, the sun's shining today, but it's very muddy. There's no, hiding in a nice warm office.
No, there's not.
And, maybe the rates of pay, you could get more stacking shelves in Aldi or something.
You could, yes, you could, potentially. And yes, it's muddy out here. Yes, you get the rainy, you get the wet days. But I find that because I like the job, I enjoy those. And the good days when the sun's shining, when you're out in the fields over the summer, they more than make up for the bad days. I just love it.
Alex Medhurst. Now, I had a night out this week at the BBC Food and Farming Awards held in Glasgow. I was judging the Farming for the Future category alongside co-judge Lucy Speed, who's an actor who, amongst other things, plays Stella in The Archers. The award went to a farmer who specialises in collaborating with scientists, conservationists and agri-tech companies to collect data and try out new crops, techniques and technology. The winner of the Farming Today Farming for the Future award is Andrew Howard.
Hello.
Congratulations. You like to try things out on the farm. That is the biggest understatement I've ever made. There is a trial on every little corner of this farm. What makes you so curious?
I think half is it because I didn't really want to be a farmer when I grew up. So I came back with a completely open mind and thought, well, no, I don't want to do it like that, I want to do it like that. And also, life's interesting, isn't it? So.
Well, it certainly is in your life, I would say. It's fantastic. What will winning this award mean for you?
All the hard stuff we've done, because things go wrong, it just sort of a validation of what we've been trying to do. My dad's put up with a lot, putting up with all my ideas, and he doesn't know what's going on in that field. He's like, what are you doing over there? It's like, well, I'm not sure yet, I'll tell you at harvest time. And also, actually, just my little 10-year-old, before he left yesterday, said, Daddy, can you mention us? So, Rose, Charlie and William, that's our future, so.
Congratulations, how does it feel to be the winner?
Surprising, shocking, but yeah, very good. I wasn't expecting to win.
I think we were completely blown away, because you read the notes and you read the nominations and you kind of think you know what you're going to see. And Lucy and I arrived in glorious sunshine and left in torrential rain.
And it didn't stop till November.
Yeah, and we just, round at every corner, I'm honestly not exaggerating, there's something else going on. And then we had a chat with his mum, who was, the whole family are just very open, because I think, if my kid came back from college and was like, let's try all this, I'd find it hard to be quite as supportive as your lot have been, in a way.
No, I'm very lucky. My dad just lets me get on with it, really. And that's not common.
What have been the highs, the things that really worked out, and the lows? I'm guessing chickpeas are going to get a mention here.
Chickpeas, well, we tried twice and failed twice. I think the highs, we did a trial, intercropping trial, soon after my Nuffield, and with one of the research organisations, and the results were so startling how much better it was. And I was on the combine looking at the yield meter thinking, yes, this has worked. So that when things go right, that is really pleasing. The lows, maybe chickpeas, but luckily it was only a small area. The lows, you always learn from the lows. So there's a guy in the States who said, if you don't fail 3 times a year, you're not trying hard enough. So I think failures are just as important as successes, because the next year in farming could be completely different and your success could turn into a failure. So you've always got to be nimble and changing.
The winner of the BBC Food and Farming Award Farming for the Future category, Andrew Howard. And you can hear more on the awards on the Food programme tonight at 10:15, or of course on BBC Sounds. That's it for another week. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer is Alan Beach, and Farming Today this week is a BBC Audio Bristol production.